Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and in today's video, we are going to be making some custom champagne glasses. Let's get into it. A friend of mine's son is getting married, so I thought it would be a great opportunity to make some custom champagne glasses for him and his soon-to-be wife. Their wedding is in a couple of weeks, so wanted to get this knocked out, so I made it before the wedding and not after the wedding. I do have the champagne glasses. I have extras in case I mess up the two that I need to make. I've made videos on engraving cylindrical items using rotaries and even engraving glass before, and I'll put a card up here to the glass one. But every glass is a little bit different, and the tips that I show in that video are what I'm going to be using to engrave this. I'm going to quickly walk through what that process is and then show you how they turn out. The first step to the process is making sure that you measure your glass. This is a fabric ruler that I use for all of the cylindrical items that I engrave. Now there's a trick to the champagne glasses because this end is very narrow and the jig on my EPILOG doesn't quite go down enough. So instead of engraving it like this, where the left-hand side or the mouth of the glass is on the left-hand side of the machine and the drive wheels are driving that side, I actually turn it 180 degrees so that the drive wheels are turning the base. This allows me to position the right-hand side and have it be more level with the actual machine. I find that this engraves much better than the opposite way. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is when I go to prep the glass, I actually clean the glass and where it's going to be engraving before I actually put it onto the machine. And then I typically take a blue cloth and stick it down in the glass like this to help minimize reflections. With the glasses that I have engraved, I find that they engrave better when I have something on the inside to help reduce that reflection versus engraving it without anything. The blue cloth tends to result in a better finish. So as you see the engraving, you'll see how I place it into the machine, and you will also see that blue cloth inside of the glass as it's rotating. Now that you got those tips, let me walk you through my design. This is my artboard for the glasses. First things first, when it comes to the size of the artboard, the width of the artboard is the length of the base of the glass to the mouth of the glass. The height of the artboard is the circumference of what is on the drive wheel, which is the base. So I measured the circumference of the base side, not the mouth side. However, if I was driving the mouth side by the drive wheels, I would have measured that side. Just keep that in mind because the dimensions do depend on which side is on the drive wheels. So here's the design that I'm going to be using. That blue line in my design is the height of where I want the logo to land on the glass itself. You can kind of think of it as where I will put my center point when I do the red dot pointer on the actual machine. There's a couple things that I want to point out about the actual design that you need to keep in mind if you want to get a good result. Number one, do not have your design in all black. Make sure that it is in grayscale. So here, if I click on my design and I go over to the color palette, make sure you're choosing grayscale from the right. And then I keep it at 70% grayscale. This will help actually spread the dots when you go to engrave everything, and it will give you a much better coverage. The second tip on the design side is if you want something to look circular in your design, you actually have to stretch it in the width direction to make sure that when it turns, it actually comes out as a circle. The rough rule for this is to stretch it by about 10%. So you want to make sure that your width, or in this case, because it's turned sideways, it's the height dimension, is about 10% wider than it really needs to be if it was a circular design. You can see here that the width of my design, which is the top and bottom of it on the glass, is 1.5, and then the height of the design, which would really be the width on the glass, is about 10% larger, so it's about 1.7. So just keep those things in mind as you are setting up the design. From there, I just center it on the artboard and I lined it up with that center mark reference that I have. And then I go and print it to the EPILOG dashboard. Once the dashboard pops up, I'm going to be using my EPILOG Edge for this. So I already have a setting set up that I like to use. You don't have to follow this one exclusively, but I have one for glass, and it's really one that I found that works well on whiskey glasses. It also works well on these champagne glasses. The settings that I use are 400 DPI, 35% speed, 100% power, and then I use a dithering of Jarvis. So this is set up for my EPILOG machinery, but if you're using a different kind of machine, that can give you a ballpark idea of what to do on a 60-watt machine. I could theoretically run it faster. I just choose not to because I find that I get a better result with that slower speed. Again, I'm not doing these for production, I'm doing them as one-off gifts. From there, I just print it over to my machine and then we will go engrave it. When I use the rotary, I use the center engraving method. I will actually put a link in the description below to a different video I did for how to use that method. But let's head over to the machine and engrave the glasses. All right, both of them are done. They are right here. So I'm putting a coaster behind it so you can see it better. But there is the final result. It came out really well. Now, I will say that sandblasting is usually my preferred go-to if I were going to make glasses. I do not have that kind of equipment, but if you're gonna really do production level, I'd probably recommend sandblasting. But for doing smaller quantities, laser engraving is a great way to do that. And as you can see, they turn out really well with the right settings. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you know when I come out with new videos. Be sure to check out all my other social media channels at Maker Experiment. But I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you in the next one.